Hi, welcome to the Ximedica TechForum. We hope this commentary encourages discussion in the medical device industry. This category is about sensor devices. The first one out of the gate here is called contact-free health sensors. There have been many players in the idea of being able to monitor use of line in bed and being able to detect how someone's health is based on their sleeping patterns. But this sensor is a little bit different. It uses ballastocardiography through contact-free bed sensors. And these sensors are made out of tubes of water that detect movement and respiration, even under a mattress, as this visual shows. And through radar transmitters can observe and measure even walking rates from someone leaving the bed. In theory, this could be used in a caregiver or assisted living facility environment to observe patients' health and detect early signs of illness. The next sensor comes from folks in China. This is a implantable trioelectric nanogenerator, or ITENG, that harnesses the physical movement of one's heart to produce a current. And the current is fed through a small computer that's able to power an implant. There's an external coil that receives the admitted data, and avoiding the need essentially to embed a power source in that implant so that power source can be used for longer and longer without having to replace it or change out a battery. Very interesting from the perspective of surgical implants. So they've started animal testing and shown that this device can function for 72 hours. Obviously, we need an implant to last for longer than that, but it's a good start. Another type of sensor, this one comes from North Carolina State University. And what this is doing is tracking environmental conditions as well as the patient's vitals to help predict the onset of asthma attacks and helping patients avoid risky places and situations. The system consists of a wrist-worn device along with an attachment that goes on the chest as well as a spirometer. The next sensor here is a nanotech tattoo from folks in Israel. This is a non-invasive carbon electrode. It's a temporary sensor that's placed on the skin that is able to detect muscle and nerve activity. The thought is this product could be used to track rehabilitation for those who are suffering from injuries, as well as map potentially emotional responses through facial muscle tracking, which might be very useful for interacting with other digital interfaces. Another sensor that is now about monitoring the movement of one's jaw from a team at Michigan State working with Bell Labs. This sensor comes in twos and it's placed on both shoulders, detecting the movement of a person's mouth in order to measure eating, drinking habits in a non-intrusive way. So the device works essentially as a radar for the jaw, sending out radio waves that bounce off the skull, which doesn't sound that pleasant, but apparently it's not uncomfortable. And the sensor can detect both coughing and talking. So potential applications could include the clinical monitoring for obesity, diabetes, asthma, and even depression. The more you talk, the less depressed you are. A very different type of sensor, this time in the realm of the military, from the folks at DARPA. This is a positioning system, a GPS essentially, for underwater. GPS, as we know it today, doesn't work when it comes into contact with water, and essentially all the signals essentially disappear. This project called Poseidon, as in the king of the sea, allows for GPS positioning underwater by placing fixed point places in the ocean, on the surface of the ocean, and allows a military submersible to accurately navigate without using sonar. So this is a long-range radio signal that each of these beacons essentially emit in order for the submersible to have a much clearer sense of its navigation. This one from EasyJet, which is the European cheap rate airline that competes with the folks like Southwest in comparison to in the US. This is a kind of a promotional idea from the company. They call it Sneak Airs. And the idea is that the shoes provide a GPS technology to guide the user around a new city that they're unfamiliar with or an airport, so that you don't actually have to look like a tourist by holding out your map or be heads down looking at a screen. So an interesting way for a company to promote the ideas of the benefits of air travel to places you've never been. Another type of sensor device, also in the context of sports, this one's called Blind Cap, also from Samsung. This is intended to be a support tool for blind Paralympic swimmers. The cap provides the swimmer with an alert when they're reaching the end of the swim line and essentially guiding them for when they need to turn around. It connects to a smartwatch worn by a coach, so the coach doesn't have to physically tap the swimmer on the shoulder to tell them that they've got to turn. There's a vibrating sensor in there to alert the swimmer of the coach's signal. Swimmers are currently being beta tested this design, and potentially we could see this in the Paralympics coming up this summer. Thank you for watching, listening, and coming on in.